trying to find out what happened.
Okay, wasn't you just talking to her? Can she provide all them information to you?
Well, let me ask you this. I was just talking to her. What if she told me that you beat the out of her and you jumped on top of her and started punching her in the face? Should I just go ahead and take that as...
but don't you know...
It's your side of the story. Give your side.
All these prescriptions, but you want to be great. Being great is really pushing the envelope. You know what I'm saying?
Gervonta Davis has finally spoken out following his reported arrest and the cancellation of the Jake Paul fight. Tank now faces a new civil lawsuit accusing him of serious DV incidents. So far, his team and coach have given only limited public responses, while Jake Paul's November 14th event hangs in the balance as promoters continue their investigation. Fans are now questioning whether the matchup will ever be rescheduled or if this marks the end of their long-brewing rivalry.
He's a lightweight. So, by all means, if they make a few quid and nobody gets hurt, then great. But I certainly wouldn't be paying a penny to watch it. I think it's just absolutely ridiculous, farcical. Who wants to watch an exhibition? Gervonta Davis is in his prime years. Why is he wasting his time? Why is he not having a rematch with the fella he got a draw with? Why is he not fighting? Why is he not going up a weight and fighting Lopez and Garcias and them fighters? Why is he fighting Jake Paul in an exhibition? I get the money's great, but he's in the prime years. This is his best year. This is where he can become... Maybe you don't want to be an all-time great. Maybe you don't want to do all that stuff. Maybe just...
A civil lawsuit filed in Miami-Dade accuses Davis of battery, aggravated battery, false imprisonment, kidnapping, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. These allegations, if proven true, could have explosive consequences both legally and for his career. According to the latest reports, the case remains a civil matter for now, with no new criminal charges connected to this complaint filed at this time. Legal experts suggest the outcome could significantly impact his future in the sport.
WBC lightweight world champion Gervonta Tank Davis was arrested earlier this week for a closed fist slapping his daughter's mother. What's a closed fist slap? Is it like this? Bro, you can't be closed fist slapping women. You can't be slapping women at all. But don't you know your hand is like Thor's hammer? Bro, you can go to jail for even flicking somebody, man. Don't you got a fight coming up? Or are you trying to ruin your career?
At the moment, Gervonta Davis hasn't issued any full public statement explaining his side of the story. Instead, the first response came quietly from his inner circle. His coach mentioned that Davis is doing fine and that they're still trying to understand the situation. It was a brief, cautious remark meant to keep the boxer away from the media chaos while legal and promotional teams handle the unfolding details. Jake Paul's most valuable. Promotions later confirmed that it had opened an internal investigation following the lawsuit's emergence. Their statement emphasized that they condemn all forms of violence, are currently gathering all necessary information, and will determine the next steps once the review is complete. This technically leaves the fight on the schedule for now, though it may be postponed or fully canceled depending on the investigation's findings. However, inside sources now claim that the November 14th event is effectively canceled rather than delayed. As Dame Mara posted on X, "I'm hearing it's being postponed. Not sure on the new date, but I'm about 80% certain the November 14th card is off." Originally, the bout was planned for Atlanta's State Farm Arena before being shifted to Miami, a move that seemed tailor-made for modern entertainment. It was the ultimate clash of styles, a viral influencer against a seasoned prize fighter, blending social media spectacle with old-school boxing muscle. Now that perfect storm of hype is suddenly in jeopardy.
When a fairly novice Jake Paul made a wish list of future opponents, and right in the middle of that list was Gervonta Tank Davis. Many laughed at the time, and some still can't believe we're here. But these two young men are the face of boxing for Gen Z and Gen Alpha. They are the two biggest boxers in America, and they are putting it all on the line. One has the speed, the skill, the accuracy, and the one-punch knockout power. The other has the size, the force, and the unbreakable confidence to make this must-see Netflix. The size difference...
Rules and context added even more intrigue to the matchup. Davis, a lightweight champion who normally competes between 135 and 140 pounds, was set to meet Paul, who had pushed into cruiserweight range. During the press conference, it was revealed that the upper weight limit would be 195 pounds with 12-ounce gloves, along with several other stipulations. Davis openly questioned the rule set and the major size gap, while the novelty and promotional theatrics suggested that a sellout crowd could have turned this into one of the year's most talked-about fights.
I watch is Tank Davis versus Jake Paul. I want Tank Davis to knock his block off. I'm sick of the Paul brothers, both of them. I can't stand either one of them. And I know I'll get pounded with emails. You're just jealous. No, I'm not jealous of them. I could care less how much money they make. I don't like their attitude. I don't like the way they conduct themselves. I don't like the way they think.
Boxing fans across social media have grown increasingly skeptical of Gervonta Davis, accusing him of avoiding elite challengers like Shakur Stevenson and Teofimo Lopez in favor of a more profitable showdown with Jake Paul. Many argue that financial gain, rather than competitive ambition, is now steering his decision-making. The debate has sparked questions about whether Davis is prioritizing legacy or leverage in his career choices.
We wasn't gonna ever fight no Shakur Stevenson, no Keyshawn Davis, no Teofimo Lopez, no none of them dudes. You know what I'm talking about? We gotta think and look at Tank Davis's whole career. He done made some bread, but at the end of the day, all that bread that he made, when it's all said and done, he ain't gonna get no respect from his peers, because we gonna look down his resume and we gonna be like, he was trash, he was some trash, he was some trash, he was all right, but he was never like that. He was okay. He was some trash, he was some trash.
Originally, Davis and Roach were expected to face each other in a rematch after their first encounter ended in a controversial majority draw. The plan was for Davis to settle unfinished business and solidify his legacy with a clear victory in the sequel. However, when the opportunity to fight Jake Paul appeared, offering a far bigger payday and global spotlight, Davis's camp quickly shifted focus. Reports indicate that Davis could earn nearly $50 million from the Paul bout. While Smith stopped short of criticizing the decision, his remarks underscored how modern boxing's priorities have changed. Legacy-defining matchups are often overshadowed by celebrity-driven crossovers that deliver massive pay-per-view sales. For Davis, the Jake Paul fight represents more than just a test of skill. It's a gateway to a worldwide audience that reaches well beyond traditional boxing fans. It's a strategic move blending business, fame, and competition into one high-stakes gamble.
He's in a division where he's got killers all in his division. You know, Shakur, Haney, who's 147. You know, you look at Teo, for example, Keyshawn, and then you choose to fight someone like Paul. Surely that's a concern when you do look at it like that.
Yeah, but again, it's the world we're in. If you can get a huge amount of money to fight someone who's never boxed really before, you're going to do it. You know, Floyd Mayweather boxed Logan Paul with a huge weight disparity.
He was done by then. He was done. Like, this is an active world champion.
But it's the world we're in.
Yeah.
And that's the truth. You know, when it comes down to it. It's just like Conor McGregor fighting Floyd Mayweather. Two completely different sports. Was the biggest pay-per-view in recent times, wasn't it? Maybe if ever.
Those are like different comparisons, though, if you think about it. Do you not like?
Yeah, but the sport's in a wild place, isn't it? That's just, like, I'm just like the reality of where we are, you know. And I can't really say much when we're talking about Jake Paul fighting Anthony Joshua at the same time.
Yeah.
You know.
Do you think Tank should get stripped of his title?
Yeah, I think anyone who, just in general, doesn't defend their title to do something else should get stripped, because it shouldn't hold the belts up. You know, in any, like, I think that should be the reality in anything. You know, if you're not going to defend your belts, or you're not defending, sometimes there's the rules. Obviously, if you fight for a belt at a higher weight, you can retain the belt until there. But if you're not, don't have intention of defending the belts, you shouldn't hold the belts up. People should get the opportunity to fight for them.
What happened with the failed negotiations between AJ and Jake Paul?
I think anything's still possible. That was always discussed for next year. You know, this fight's November, early part.
Former world champion Carl Froch didn't mince words, calling the entire situation an absolute joke. According to Froch, talks for a Jake Paul versus Anthony Joshua showdown were reportedly 99% finalized before Paul suddenly shifted gears to face Davis, a fighter nearly half his size. Froch found the move bewildering, viewing it as clear evidence that Jake Paul values spectacle over genuine competition. His comments mirror the sentiments of many boxing insiders who believe Paul handpicks opponents to maximize publicity while minimizing danger. Taking on Joshua would have been a monumental test, but choosing Davis, Frock argued, turns the event into more of a circus act than a sporting contest. To him, it's another sign that boxing's entertainment era is overshadowing its competitive roots.
But the fight against Jake Paul ain't going to happen anyway. It ain't going to happen. We can all believe it. Jake Paul.
Eddie Hearn said it's 99% done.
Because you know what? And Jake Paul's done a great job in hustling Eddie. Yeah. He's going to get so either Eddie's in on it or he's let this young man hustling. Yeah. And so the kids kidded the kidders.
Well, listen, we've had a chat, we've caught up. We'll have another chat as well in a...
I'm going to do some sunbathing, man.
Days, bit of sunbathing. Top up the town.
Yes, I baby.
As well.
Black is the number.
Let us know in the comments below who you think wins the fight and what Anthony Joshua should be doing next. Do you agree with us? Do you disagree with us? Let us know in the comments below. This has been another episode of Froch on Fighting. Got the main man here, Johnny Nelson, a.k.a.
Blickman.
We'll see. He said it, not me. We'll see you on the next episode. Take care. Just here at Los Naranjos in Viva, España, and I found out that Gervonta Davis is now fighting Jake Paul. So Jake Paul was supposed to be fighting AJ. Eddie Hearn announced 99% done, which we've just spoke about. What next for AJ? Potentially Jake Paul. But it now looks like that Jake Paul is fighting one of Anthony Joshua's legs. He's fighting Gervonta Davis, somebody who's a quarter of his size. I don't even know what's going on. Has Eddie Hearn been...
Meanwhile, Nakisa Badarian, co-founder of Most Valuable Promotions, confidently dismissed concerns about Jake Paul's size advantage over Gervonta Davis. He argued that size wouldn't play a decisive role against a fighter of Davis's caliber, noting that Paul requested the heavier catchweight mainly because of his relative inexperience. Badarian also clarified that the Paul versus Davis matchup wasn't a spur-of-the-moment decision. It had been in development long before. According to him, the fight was always part of a broader plan after a proposed matchup with Canelo Alvarez fell apart. He added that Davis himself had been eager to make the fight happen for years, and once the Canelo negotiations collapsed, the road to facing Tank became wide open. Badarian framed it as the fight both sides ultimately wanted. Timing just made it possible.
And Tank are going to happen November 14th.
Whatever weight they want, man, they're talking about it, and whatever it is, there's going to be a definitive outcome. People can talk about pro, exhibition. We're going to make sure this is as real as it's real.
Why was it, just out of curiosity, why is it not a professional bout and why is it an exhibition? Because I'm sure Jake would have taken the professional bout.
Nothing's been communicated as yet in terms of what it is, right? Similar to, if you remember, with Paul Tyson, when we announced it, we didn't have the weight, we didn't have the rules, particularly in terms of the number of rounds, the minutes, the gloves. It's going to be the same thing here.
Gotcha. Can you just offer us any insight as to how these negotiations went? The reason I ask is because I remember back in March, I was at Tank's fight, and after his fight in his press conference, he was asked, next opponent. He said, well, my next opponent might have been in my locker room tonight. And people asked him, was it Jake? He made reference, he made allusion to. Has this been an ongoing thing? And has it ever, been at a point where it wasn't going to happen and came back? Or was this always the plan?
Always been the plan for Jake to fight Tank once Canelo didn't happen. And to Tank's credit, he's a real bad dude, and he's been calling out Jake for 3 years. And people, it's funny how now they're saying size matters, Jake is big, when for so long it's been Tank would kill Jake Paul.
Badarian acknowledges that the size gap between Jake Paul and Gervonta Davis is undeniable. Paul is naturally heavier, taller, and has a longer reach. Still, he insists that Davis's superior skill and experience give him a major advantage that can't be overlooked. Tank has been a decorated professional for over a decade, competing at lightweight with multiple world titles, an almost spotless record, and a long list of knockouts. He's proven his versatility, speed, and elite timing, along with the power to hurt opponents in a variety of ways. Paul, on the other hand, continues to gain experience, but has yet to face a fighter of Davis's caliber. In Badarian's view, the real test won't be about size. It'll be about whether Jake can handle Tank's precision and ring IQ.
Yes, but so is the skill and experience difference. One man has been doing this for 23 years, since the age of 7. The other picked up the sport 5 years ago and has virtually no amateur experience. So the size difference is what makes this plausible. The king of the jungle here is Tank Davis. He is the lion taking on the young elephant that is Jake Paul. The lion is looking at me like he's about to eat me. The lion is fast, he's fierce, and he's fatal when he strikes. But the young elephant is big, powerful, and hard to knock down. And come Friday, November 14th, the jungle will be set in tropical Miami, Florida, and the world will be watching live.
On the other hand, critics like Joe Rogan admit that Jake Paul has played a major role in attracting younger fans to boxing, generating excitement that many traditional promoters couldn't. Still, Rogan questions whether Jake is truly prepared to face a legitimate, in-prime fighter like Gervonta Davis. The truth is, Jake's most notable victories have come against opponents who were either retired, crossing over from other sports, or past their best years. Davis, by contrast, brings elite speed, knockout accuracy, and over a decade of top-tier professional experience. Rogan points out that business success and social media fame can't protect Jake once the bell rings. In the ring, no amount of followers can absorb the punches for him. He respects Jake's boldness, but believes this fight will finally test him against a rival who's young, dangerous, and still at the height of his powers. For Rogan, it's the moment where hype meets harsh reality.
Fights like, what if Jake Paul knocks one of them out? Like, what if you get a guy that, like, hasn't been tested and maybe has some promise and maybe gets wrapped up in the hype and maybe gets a little nervous, and this is his first chance at a big show, and Jake Paul can crack.
Yeah.
100%. That knockout of Tyron Woodley is legit as fuck. He can crack.
But Eddie's point in that interview, and I think the point that just about every boxing aficionado would say, is that Tyrone.
Paulie Malignaggi, the former two-division world champion and respected boxing analyst, admitted he never anticipated this matchup. To him, the announcement came completely out of left field and shocked the boxing world. While Jake Paul has often made headlines for taking on unconventional opponents, pairing him with a lightweight like Gervonta Davis still left Malignaggi surprised. He called it an unpredictable move that proves just how far Paul is willing to push the limits of modern matchmaking. Malignaggi emphasized that despite Jake's clear size advantage, Davis's skill, experience, and championship pedigree stand on another level entirely. He described Davis's career as legendary, built on years of dominance and consistent excellence, and credited him for elevating the sport as a whole. Malignaggi urged fans not to underestimate Davis's legacy, reminding them that true greatness is measured by what a fighter gives back to boxing, not just what they earn from it.
Lose because he's the bona fide world champion. I don't care if he's much smaller. I think Jake Paul has sort of plateaued as far as where his boxing is concerned. It's rather low level. Yeah. He's big, he's physical, he's strong, he can hit. So there is that risk. Davis, at lightweight, you're in a moment where it's too physical for you. You can clinch. Against the heavyweight, where you clinching? You ain't getting out of that corner just clinching anymore if you run out of space. You know what I mean? So it's interesting. But Davis, listen, there's a lot of talking points that I'm sure we'll get into when this gets closer to the fight. Davis can still punch at lightweight. Can he drop a heavyweight? There's a lot to gain there, right? If Davis knocks
the answer is yes.
If Davis drops Jake on his ass, as much as Davis is the one with more to lose, it's still a highlight moment.
A visual that will stay forever.
Yeah. But if you get dropped, even if you're smaller, you're still a world champion, multiple weight classes. If you get dropped, what's the look? What's the feel? On the inside, as boxers, me and Chris Algieri, the champ, even you, Jimmy, you have fight experience, so we know that the risk is a big guy that big hits you. You're probably going down if you're a small guy, if he hits you clean. So we know the risk, but how does it look to the public eye who don't understand that? You know what I mean? The public. So there is a lot to lose, though. There's a bit to gain. I wouldn't necessarily have an issue with this had Davis's career arc been one that benefited boxing. Davis was manufactured and put into a position where he's supposed to benefit boxing, and I don't think he has. I think he's hurt boxing. So by giving him this reward, that's my problem. Why are we watching this? Why don't you make him earn his...
In contrast to Paulie's take, one of Jake Paul's former sparring partners has offered a blunt and unfiltered prediction. Gervonta Davis simply hits too hard, and Jake has never faced that kind of knockout power before. He explained that while Jake's confidence stems from stopping former MMA fighters and aging boxers, that mindset won't save him against someone of Davis's caliber. According to him, when Gervonta lands, he doesn't just connect, he inflicts real damage. The ex-sparring partner believes Jake will quickly realize he's stepped into a level far beyond his current experience. Many in the boxing community respect Jake's courage and willingness to take risks, but this insider insists that every risk has a breaking point, and Tank Davis is exactly where that line gets drawn.
Every single time, people said that Jake would get finished or he would lose a fight, he obviously proved everybody wrong. But I genuinely believe this time, I think that, with Gervonta's boxing IQ and him having Jake come down a little bit in weight, I think Gervonta will beat him, honestly. I think Gervonta will hurt him. I think he'll just use IQ. He'll tire him out a little bit. And, I think he'll land. Gervonta knows how to touch his opponents. But it's interesting because when Floyd fought Logan, the size really made a big, impact. And you saw Floyd struggle, against a big, Ohio corn-fed, wrestling strong dude. And, I've sparred Jake and Logan before, and, they train hard.
You're picking Tank by knockout?
Daniel Cormier, the UFC legend turned boxing analyst, shared a fresh perspective on Jake Paul's rapid ascent in the sport. Cormier pointed out that Paul's spectacle-filled showdown with Mike Tyson on Netflix created a new blueprint for blending boxing with entertainment. He argued that while many still label Paul as merely a social media celebrity, his visible skill improvement, disciplined training, and willingness to take real risks in the ring prove otherwise. To Cormier, Paul is redefining how boxing connects with the mainstream audience, and in doing so, he's achieving a different kind of success. Cormier believes that even if Paul never becomes a traditional champion, he's already changed the way the sport markets itself to the world.
Twice. Big numbers. Jake Paul fought against Tommy Fury. Big numbers. Jake Paul, who I believe, and I have told you guys this time and time again, he's much better than people give him credit for. One, Jake Paul is not an amateur fighter, like some try to say. Jake Paul has money, so Jake Paul is getting trained by the best boxing coaches that money can buy. He's full-time boxing. There are a lot of people that say he may do some other stuff. I don't know who he was going to fight that was saying that he was juiced up and he was ignoring him. Or was it Logan Paul? One of them. But at the end of the day, this kid's training to be the best fighter in the world, or the best as he can be, and he understands what losing would do to the perception of who he is in fighting. We were yelling so much about him fighting someone. Fight somebody your size. Fight somebody, a real boxer. Stop fighting MMA guys. There were so many things that people were mad about in regards to his level of competition and the people he was competing against. Well, today we learned that Jake Paul has his next opponent. His next opponent is by far the most credentialed guy.
Do you think the Jake Paul versus Gervonta Davis fight is collapsing due to lack of real fan demand? Or could this all be part of a calculated business strategy to stir more hype before a reschedule? Share your thoughts in the comments. Is this fight losing steam or just getting started?